The Sarasota Bradenton area is so popular for people who want to go on vacation, maybe a staycation, they need to visit family or friends, or maybe even they just need to come down here for a few days as they look at properties to purchase. And then of course, long-term rentals are in high demand as well. So if you've been thinking about trying to tap into that potential revenue stream, then this is going to be a great video for you. I'm going to cover things to look out for, the best approach, how maybe you need to adjust your mindset a little bit, and then also I'm going to point out some pitfalls so you don't trip over something or make a poor purchase for you. And because buying something is more than just purchasing it and then throwing it on a website for people to see and hoping that you'll be able to rent it out. Hi, I'm Jill Thomas, and each week I bring new videos about the Sarasota Bradenton area, what it's like to live in beautiful, sunny Florida, and then of course, all things real estate. So if you've been thinking about making a move to the Sunshine State, then this is the channel for you. Or maybe you're still trying to determine where exactly you want to go, and I get that too. It's a big process. So be sure to tap that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos, and then of course, keep on watching. And then if you have any questions, please reach out to me and lean into my expertise. Feel free to call, email, or text me, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. And I realize that in the end that this area might not be the area for you to buy in or to move to, and that's okay. And if I can help with connecting you to another great agent in another city, then I'll be happy to do that also. I always seem to have a steady stream of people who are thinking about purchasing an investment property to rent out. And maybe they're not looking to build an empire, but maybe just purchase one or maybe two places in time, just to tap into that potential revenue stream. So if that's been on your mind, if you've been toying with that idea and thinking this might be a good option for you, then keep on watching. Number one, determine your goals. In other words, what do you plan on doing with this property? What's your ultimate goal with this property? Do you want to rent it out annually? Do you want to use it some yourself and rent it out some? Do you want to rent it out exclusively right now and then use it yourself in the future and not rent it out at all, like maybe after you retire? There's a lot of folks with that on their mind. Maybe you just want to rent it out as much as possible, do those short-term rentals. You're thinking Airbnb, VRBO. So there's a lot of things that you can do with a rental property, and that's going to be different for everybody. So that's a really good first question to ask yourself. What's the purpose? And then of course, communicate that with me or your realtor, because that's how they're going to help you best. And maybe right now you're not really sure what you want to do with it, or maybe you've got one thing on your mind, but in this video, I'm going to give you a lot more food for thought, and it's going to help you maybe narrow that down a little bit or change your mind on some of the plans that you had set in your head. So this is a good video for you to sort those things out a bit. Number two, condo versus single family home. So the next thing we have to think about as well is, are you more of a condo person for this or a house? Now, a condo is really nice, especially if you're an absentee owner, which means that you don't live in the area as you're renting it out, because a lot of things are going to be taken care of for you. You don't have to worry about mowing the yard, painting the exterior of the property, maintaining a pool, anything like that. So much is done for you, and that's really a great thing. But of course, then you have condo association dues. In the future, there could be a special assessment where you're going to get dinged with an extra bill of $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 to cover an improvement or something that has to be done. So that could impact your budget as well. But then with a house, it's nice because maybe you don't have some of those regular expenses, but then you do have the headache of maintaining the property and making sure everything's working well. You're concerned about the roof, and so there are definitely pros and cons to condo versus single family home. Now, if you're still not really sure about that, I did a 5-part video series on condos, and actually it was my first videos I ever did, my first 5 videos. So I wasn't as comfortable in front of the camera, but the material's still really, really good. And so I'm gonna have a link to those videos down below. And those videos are actually a lot shorter than the videos I make today. They're like 6-7 minutes long each. So take a look at that. Whether you're looking to purchase a condo as an investment or for yourself, it's a really good series to check out. Number 3, rental restrictions. Now, every community, every house, every condo, every association, every property has rental restrictions in place, whether you realize it or not. And some places, the rental restrictions are very strict. They're very restrictive. And other areas, they're very loose and liberal. So depending on what you want to do with the property is going to determine what type of rental restrictions you're going to be looking for. So this next little section, sometimes people get lost on. So listen closely. I'm going to try to keep it as crystal clear as possible for you. Okay, every place is going to tell you how often you can rent out a property in a year and what's the minimum lease term that it can be rented for. So for instance, a condo association might say that a property can be leased up to 3 times a year at a 2-month minimum rental. So that means that the property has to be leased for at least 2 months or more. So it could be 2 months, 3 months, 4.5 months. It doesn't matter as long as it's at least for 2 months, and you can do it up to 3 times a year. Some places might say 1 month minimum rental up to 12 times a year. And again, if it's 1 month minimum, you can always lease it for longer than that, but no shorter than that. So you can go longer, but not any shorter. All right, so every place will tell you how many times per year, and then what's the minimum length of time it can be leased for. So that's one set of restrictions that every place has. Now, some communities, not only with those, they're going to have additional restrictions, and they're doing that because they do want to limit how many properties are being leased or rented in a community or in an association. So what you might see is that there's going to be a cap on how many properties can be leased or rented at one time. And sometimes you'll see it as a percentage, like they might say 10% or 20% or only 25% of the properties can be leased at any given time. And if that's the case, then sometimes there's a waiting list that you have to go on in order to be able to rent out the property. Another thing that some associations will say is you have to own the property for a certain period of time before you can rent it out. Sometimes I'll see it as you have to own it for 1 year or 2 years before you can rent it out. And I know like one Watergate downtown by the Ritz-Carlton, that's the case. You have to own it for 2 years before you're allowed to rent it out. So they try to restrict that. So now you think, well, big deal. You know, it's my place. You know, I can do what I want. Maybe I can fudge it a little bit and try to get away with it. Well, first of all, with condos, it's really hard to get away with that. I don't recommend it at all. And then usually, even tenants have to fill out an application to the association. They might even want to do a background check on folks. So there's a process with all of this whenever there's a tenant. And you do maybe have some nosy neighbors. Same thing with single family homes. If you've got to be really careful. So if you've got like a Gladys Kravitz living next to you, they could end up calling the association or the management company or somebody and turn you in for breaking those rules on the rental restrictions. So you got to be careful with nosy neighbors. I don't recommend that you try to push it a bit with getting away with renting a property out more frequently than what's permitted. Number 4, popular rental times. So this is really key as well, because what's popular in terms of times of year to rent out a property here in Sarasota or in Florida as a general rule, it's going to be quite different than other parts of the country. Just like if you're in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, you know, it's going to be different in both areas. So in our area, popular rental times is January, February, and March, because that's peak season. So slam dunk right there if you want to rent out a property for any length of time, whether it's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 3-night minimum, whatever the case is, you're going to be able to rent it out. Be confident with that. Now, things start to ramp up leading into that season, January. So in November, December, it starts to pick up. And then in April, it starts to fade away. Now, that demand, and it really depends on what the weather's like up north. It depends on when Easter falls in the springtime. So each year, it's a little different on when we start to feel the traffic, you know, back off a little bit and that demand taper off. So it does vary from year to year, but generally speaking, that's what you can count on and bank on. Now, let me talk about the kind of condos that people think about. Well, if it's a 2 or 3 month minimum rental, I want to use it myself during season, and then I can rent it out during the off season. I can rent it out for 2 or 3 months in the summer, maybe in the fall. So that's great. That'll work out perfect for me. Well, here's the problem with that is that there's very little demand for somebody to rent out a property for 2 or 3 months during that off season. So I wouldn't bank on you being able to get that rental income that you're looking for, because we have so much inventory, so many people who are willing to rent out their properties during those times. We have a lot less demand, so then people can be more picky about what they're looking for. If they're looking for that slightly longer rental term, they're going to look for something with a great view, great location, great condition, and they're looking for a great price at that point. So maybe you don't want to rent it out if you're going to have to rent it out on the cheap just to get somebody in there. Maybe it's not worth it for you to have strangers in your place and kind of banging it up a little bit during those times. So you have to think about that for yourself on what would be a good fit. But to rent out something for 2 or 3 months during the off season isn't as popular. It doesn't mean that you can't get somebody, but the demand just isn't there. So if you're really counting on that to help offset your expenses, I think you're going to be disappointed in that process. Now, I do want to clarify something though as I say that. Because of where the market is right now in 2021, depending on the location of the property, you may be able to actually rent it out then for those 2 or 3 months during the off season, and here's why. I've had a lot of people contact me who want to purchase down here, but they would like to stay down here for a little while they're doing it. So they are looking for that 2 or 3 month rental period, and then maybe even after that going month to month, depending on how quickly they can find a property they want to buy. They want to come down here, they want to really check out the neighborhoods, check out the community, figure out really the area they want to purchase in. So I'm seeing that trend coming up, that I do have a good number of people who want to rent even this summer for 2 or 3 months at a time. But I don't want you to count on that, because that's just the way the market is right now, today, and in the future that can change. I would have never said this 2 or 3 years ago, but the way it is in 2021, and also because new construction's taking longer to be completed, then there's some people that want some temporary housing for a few months waiting for their house to be built. But not everybody's going to be, your 2-bedroom condo on the beach. That's not all what they're looking for. Some people have pets, some people have children, so the needs are a little different. So I will say in the immediate future, I think you can lease a place a lot more easily than what you could have a couple years ago. So I hope that makes sense, that the way the market is right now, there's a more unique demand for rentals, but it may not be like this in 2 years from now. It could be, but it might not. So I just don't want you to bank on that and then be disappointed that you're not renting it out like you used to be able to. And then with annual rentals, slam dunk, easy peasy. You can do that all day long, every year. Furnished, unfurnished. So don't sweat it. If you're just looking for an annual rental, you should be able to fill your property. Number 5, great places for rentals. Okay, so maybe now you're getting a handle on how you want to rent out a property, or the type of property you're looking for. You're figuring out your goals. Well, now where's the best place to buy these properties? Because again, you just can't go and buy anything and say, well, this is what I want to do with it, so this is what I'm going to do. All right, first I want to talk about condos, then I'll talk about single family homes. Now with condominiums, if you're looking to do an annual rental or something longer term, then again, you've got lots and lots of options, whether you want to buy something in Palmer Ranch, Lakewood Ranch, Palmer, a 55 plus community, really anywhere will work for an annual rental. It's the short-term rentals that are a little bit more difficult. Generally speaking, the best places to buy a condo that permits short-term rentals are going to be on one of the barrier islands, and in particular, Siesta Key. Down in Venice, there's a few, and then North Longboat Key, Bradenton Beach, Holmes Beach, and Anna Marie Island. Now, on those islands, there's not maybe as many as on Siesta Key, but you still have some really good options. So when I say, again, short-term rentals, we're talking maybe a 2-week minimum, 1-week minimum, or even a 3-night minimum. On Longboat Key, the south end, there really isn't much of anything that would work for that. It's either Beach Place or Sea Place has a 2-month minimum. I think one might have a 1-month minimum, and that's it. And then on Lido Key, it's very, very restrictive, just like Longboat Key, with the exception of a couple of condos that are older, that are a block or two away from the beach. So they're not directly on the beach. They're not going to have water views. So you could invest in one of those properties as well if you just like that location. But otherwise, you're looking primarily at Siesta Key is going to be your best option. Now, I did actually find a place on the mainland, which I don't think there's too many out there, that do allow short-term rentals. It was in Bradenton off of Cortez Road, I believe, and they're just really smaller units, but a lower price, but then you have to think, okay, how well can it rent out because of the location? You're not on the beach. But then if it's a lower price point, maybe your return on investment is going to be okay. So that's something you'd have to figure out what would be a good fit for you. Now, when you have those condo associations that do allow short-term rentals, it's not unusual that they have on-site rental management that you can use if you want to. Generally speaking, most of those places don't require you to use their on-site rental management if you want to rent out the property, but a lot of people do like to do that. And the reason why is it really opens you up to getting last-minute rentals in there. Somebody might just pull into the office and say, what do you have available? So you can really tap into that. Of course, you're paying for it versus if you are managing it yourself, or you could use another rental agent. But you do have those options, generally speaking, with the condos that have short-term rentals. Now let's talk about homes. Again, generally speaking, because there's always an exception to all these rules, so that's why I feel like I say that a lot. Generally speaking, in Sarasota County, the rule is 1 month minimum rentals for the single family homes. Now, if you're in the city limits though, there's a 1 week minimum rentals, and I've got a little map here that shows you the boundaries of what's city limits, but it's basically downtown Sarasota, the area to the north, the south, and then to the west, which would be St. Armands, Lido Key, and actually the north end of Siesta Key. Now, even though I say that in Sarasota County, it's a 1 month minimum, there can be exceptions to those rules. If an association, a neighborhood where there's deed restrictions can override or supersede what those rules are, and it's not unusual if they're more restrictive. So where I live, it's I think it's an annual minimum, and then you have to own for 2 years before you can rent it out. So it's different than what the county is. In the city limits, Bird Key is right there. It's the neighborhood as you go over the Ringling Bridge. It's on the left-hand side as you head out west, and that has a 2 month minimum rental. So just because you say, well, I'm in the city limits, I should be allowed to do this, sorry, you can't do it. And then there's actually some areas down in Venice as well that permit shorter term rentals. So if you are looking to purchase a house that you really want to rent out a lot, just not do the annual rentals, then I would suggest you either look in the city limits of Sarasota or some of these little pockets down in Venice. And again, what's nice with that is that you can still use it some yourself if you want to come down for a week or so during busy season and then still rent it out. So you can find a really good balance with those types of properties. Number 6, pitfalls. All right, there's a few things I want to share with you that I think will help you as you're making decisions today and then thinking about the future as well. So here are a few pitfalls, or a little food for thought. All right, first of all, for those of you who want to purchase something now, rent it out now, and then use it more just for yourself in the future, like after you retire, keep this in mind. If the condo association allows really short-term rentals, it's great rental income today, but is that where you want your retirement place to be in 5 or 6 years from now, or whenever that is? Do you want to be in a place where there are short-term rentals, it's very transient, and it's almost used like a hotel? So you've got different neighbors all the time, people are in big-time vacation mode, and it's just a different vibe. It's maybe not as quiet and as relaxed in its feeling. So keep that in mind, that maybe you don't want to purchase a property, or maybe you're okay with it, and that's fine too, but that allow really short-term rentals right now, and then it's going to be your retirement home in the future, because the environment just isn't the same as maybe what you're envisioning. So keep that in mind. So that's the first one. Number 2, I want to talk about financing and condos that permit short-term rentals. Now, if a condominium allows, let's say, 3-night minimum rentals or weekly rentals, then it may not be eligible for a conventional loan when you're getting financing. So if you need to get financing, or you want to get financing, with a rental property that's really going to crank them out, then you need to talk to your lender about getting a non-conforming loan, because even with a conventional loan, the condominium might not pass and you can't get that financing for the unit. So it's going to be, your loan's going to be structured a little bit differently. So I want you to keep that in mind as well, because that's not something that people really think about. And while I'm talking about financing in condos, on a quick side note, I want to mention that generally speaking, you cannot purchase a condo, any condo, I don't care if it's just where you're going to live and it's annual rentals, you cannot purchase a condo with an FHA loan. And in order for a condo to be purchased with an FHA loan, it needs approval. The whole association needs FHA approval. And there's actually a website you can go to, you can Google, FHA condo list for whatever county you're in, for Sarasota County. So I just did that the other day. There are 0 condos right now on that list for Sarasota County. I know a while back there were like 4 or 5. So that list can change. So if you want to buy a condo with an FHA loan, probably not going to happen. So I want to throw that out there while we're talking about financing. And then number 3, let's talk about the prices of some of these rental properties. And I'm talking again, more of these properties are more like rental machines. These short-term ones that are on Siesta Key or farther north on one of the barrier islands, like around Anna Marie Island. Generally speaking, the prices for those condos are going to be more than similar condos to it that don't have liberal rental restrictions. So for instance, I listed a condo on Siesta Key. It was a 1-bedroom, 1.5 bath. It was small. It was in nice shape. It was a cute little condo, had no view. It was on the Gulf side, so it was walking distance to the beach. You didn't have to cross a busy road or anything like that. But it closed in January, I think for like $465 or so. At that time, not today, don't compare it to today's prices, but at that time, you could get a 2-bedroom condo on Longboat Key on the bay side with a beautiful water view in a community like Fairway Bay for about the same price, for that upper 4s into 5s price point. And so it just goes to show that because you could rent that thing out like crazy and you can get that rental income, you might be paying a little bit more money for that property. So if you're comparing condo to condo, if it doesn't have similar rental restrictions, it's apples to oranges. So you've got to compare properties that have similar restrictions, because that makes a difference, and they're factoring the idea that you can get some return on your investment. Well, I hope this video helped you just a little bit if you're thinking about buying a rental property. Maybe I didn't give you enough information. Maybe now you have more questions than what you had before you watched the video, and that's okay because everybody's circumstances are so different. I can't cover everything, but I hope that this gave you some food for thought. I hope that this is going to help you to make better decisions for yourself and maybe help prevent you from making a poor decision in a way that will impact you maybe down the road that you didn't anticipate right away. So again, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this video is helpful to you, please hit the like button. And then also don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And as always, don't be shy. Give me a call, text, or email me if there's anything I can help you with. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.